Hey everyone, welcome to Real Talk Grimm Edition. I'm your host, Josh, and this is the place where we dive into the dark, whimsical world of the Brothers Grimm. Whether you're a longtime fan of fairy tales or just discovering them, you're in the right spot. Each episode, we'll read a classic Grimm's fairy tale and explore its deeper meanings, lessons, and how it's influenced everything from modern storytelling to pop culture. From well-known stories like Cinderella to more obscure stories that still carry a punch, we're going to get into what makes these so timeless and sometimes downright eerie. Now, this isn't just about reading stories. It's about peeling back the layers and looking at what these stories really teach us. The Grimm's brothers don't shy away from showing the darker side of life, and in many ways, those darker elements hold some of the most powerful messages. Whether it's about good versus evil, human nature, or just the consequences of choices. So whether you're here for the ride of a familiar story or to uncover something you haven't heard before, stick with me as we explore the fascinating and twisted world of Grimm's fairy tales. Today, we're going to start with The Giant and the Tailor. So grab your favorite drink, sit back, and enjoy the tale. The Giant and the Tailor. A certain tailor who was great at boasting but ill at doing took it into his head to go abroad for a while and look about the world. As soon as he could imagine it, he left his workshop and wandered on his way, over the hill and dale, sometimes hither, sometimes thither, but ever on and on. Once, when he was out, he perceived in the blue distance a steep hill, and behind it a tower reaching to the clouds, which rose up out of the wild dark forest. "Thunder and lightning!" cried the tailor. "What is that?" And as he was strongly goaded by curiosity, he went boldly towards it. But what made the tailor open his eyes and mouth when he came out near it was to see that the tower had legs and leapt in one bound over the steep hill, and was now standing as an all-powerful giant before him. "What dost thou want here, thou tiny fly's leg?" cried the giant, with a voice as if it were thundering on every side. The tailor whimpered, "I want just to look about and see if I can earn a bit of bread for myself in this forest." "If that is what thou art after," said the giant, "thou mayst have a place with me. If it must be, why not? What wages shall I receive?" "Thou shalt hear what wages thou shalt have. Every year 365 days, and when it is leap year, one more into the bargain. Does that suit thee?" "All right," replied the tailor, and thought in his own mind, "A man must cut his coat according to his cloth. I will try to get away as fast as I can." On this the giant said to him, "Go, little ragamuffin, and fetch me a jug of water." "Had I not better bring the well itself at once, and the spring too?" asked the boaster, and went with the pitcher to the water. "What? The well and the spring too?" growled the giant in his beard, for he was rather clownish and stupid, and began to be afraid. "That knave is not a fool. He has a wizard in his body. Be on thy guard, old Hans. This is no serving man for thee." When the tailor had brought back the water, the giant bade him to go into the forest and cut a couple of blocks of wood and bring them back. "Why not the whole forest at once with one stroke? The whole forest, young and old, with all that is there, both rough and smooth?" asked the little tailor, and went to cut the wood. "What? The whole forest, young and old, with all that is there, both rough and smooth, and the well and its spring too? Growled the credulous giant in his beard, and was still more terrified. The knave can do much more than bake apples, and has a wizard in his body. Be on thy guard, old Hans. This is no serving man for thee. When the tailor had brought the wood, the giant commanded him to shoot 2 or 3 wild boars for supper. Why not rather 1,000 at one shot and bring them all here? Inquired the ostentatious tailor. What? Cried the timid giant in great terror. Let well alone tonight and lie down to rest. The giant was so terribly alarmed that he could not close an eye all night long for thinking what would be the best way to get rid of the accursed sorcerer of a servant. Time brings counsel. Next morning the giant and the tailor went to a marsh, round which stood a number of willow trees. Then said the giant, Hark thee, tailor, seat thyself on one of the willow branches. I long of all things to see if thou art big enough to bend it down. All at once the tailor was sitting on it, holding his breath and making himself so heavy that the bough bent down. When, however, he was compelled to draw breath, it hurried him, for unfortunately he had not put his goose in his pocket, so high into the air that he never was seen again, and this to the great delight of the giant. If the tailor has not fallen down again, he must be hovering about in the air. All right, that's a fun little story, but let's step back for a moment now and picture the scene. The tailor, small in stature but big in words, sets out into the world, not particularly strong. He's not a warrior or a hero. He's just a man with a sharp tongue and a bit of a sharp wit. Then he encounters something unimaginable, a giant, a creature of immense power, towering above him like a living mountain, the kind of being that could crush him with a flick of the wrist. Now, most of us in the tailor's position would probably turn and run, but not this guy. No, he doesn't just stand his ground. He talks big. He boasts, he exaggerates, and he plants just enough doubt in the giant's mind that the beast starts to wonder. Is this tiny man more powerful than he seems? And that's the key. The tailor doesn't actually perform any great feats. He doesn't fight, he doesn't lift a mountain, he doesn't slay a dragon. What he does is create the illusion of power. He speaks with so much confidence that the giant, despite his size, starts to believe it. And so, task after task, the giant hesitates. He second-guesses himself. He begins to fear the tailor, believing him to be some kind of wizard, capable of unimaginable feats. But here's the thing. Confidence can only take you so far. At some point, reality catches up. And when the giant finally decides to turn the tables, tricking the tailor into launching himself into the air, that's the end of the road. The tailor, for all his cleverness, disappears, never to be seen again. So what's the moral of the story? I think it's the fine line between confidence and arrogance. At its core, The Giant and the Tailor is a story about deception, wit, and the consequences of overconfidence. The tailor uses his cunning to manipulate the giant, proving that intelligence can often outmatch brute strength. but he takes it too far. He starts to believe his own exaggerations, and in the end, the very arrogance leads to his downfall. The moral is clear. Cunning and confidence can outmatch brute strength, but arrogance can be one's undoing. There's something fascinating about that lesson, isn't there? We admire confidence. We see it as the mark of leadership, success, and power. But unchecked confidence, when turns into arrogance, can blind us to the dangers ahead. The tailor was brilliant, but he didn't know when to stop. He tricked the giant again and again, but in the end, it was he who got tricked. So, what does this fairy tale about a tailor and a giant have to do with us today? Well, more than you might think on its surface, at least. There's cleverness versus strength, the power of innovation. In our world, physical strength isn't the ultimate advantage. It's intelligence, adaptability, and creativity. Think about the way technology has changed the game. Small startups can maneuver or outmaneuver massive corporations simply by being a little smarter, more innovative, and more strategic. The tailor, in many ways, is like a scrappy entrepreneur, using his wit to succeed in a world dominated by giants. Then there's the power of perception, social media, and the art of illusion. The tailor's success is not based on what he can do, but on what he convinces others, specifically the giant, can do. Does that sound familiar? We live in an era when perception is everything. On social media, people curate their lives to appear more successful, more exciting, more talented than they really are. We see influencers who seem to have it all. Behind the scenes, though, the reality is often far less glamorous. Like the tailor, they rely on illusion of greatness, but illusions can't last forever. And then the downfall of overconfidence, knowing when to stop. Confidence can open doors, but overconfidence can slam them shut. We've seen countless public figures, CEOs, celebrities whose rise to fame was caused by their boldness, only to see them come crashing down because they overestimate their own abilities. The tailor's downfall is a warning. Don't let success blind you to the risks. Just because you've outsmarted people before doesn't mean you'll always be the smartest person in the room. And then there's manipulation and fear, that danger of misinformation. One of the most interesting elements of the story is how easily the giant is manipulated. He's powerful, but gullible, and fear leads him to make poor decisions. This is something we see in the modern world all too often. Fear is a powerful tool. It has shaped our elections, it has started wars, and it has spread conspiracy theories. When people believe something out of fear rather than fact, they can be controlled. The giant is a cautionary figure, showing us the dangers of believing everything we hear without stopping to question it. At first glance, the giant and the tailor might just seem like a whimsical little fairy tale. But dig just a little bit deeper, and it reveals something timeless about human nature. We love an underdog who wins through cleverness, but we also know that pride comes before the fall. So the lesson here, be smart, be strategic, be confident, but don't get so lost in your own story that you forget reality. Because sooner or later, gravity catches up with all of us. And as for the tailor, well, if he hasn't come down yet, maybe he's still floating up there. Just another reminder that sometimes when you fly too close to the sun, you don't get to come back down. So one more time, The Giant and the Tailor is not just a story about a little man defeating a big man, but when you dig a little deeper, there's so much more here. It reminds us that perception can be more powerful than reality, but that power is fleeting if we start believing our own illusions. And in a world where appearances often matter more than truth, this tale serves as both an inspiration and a cautionary warning. So the next time you find yourself talking a big game, ask, am I using my wit to navigate challenges? Or am I setting myself up for a fall? Because as the tailor learned, flying too high, literally or figuratively, can have unexpected consequences. And that wraps up today's dive into The Giant and the Tailor. I hope you enjoyed this exploration of deception, confidence, and how sometimes the smallest figure can hold the greatest power, at least for a little while. What did you think of the story? Have you ever seen someone talk their way into or out of trouble? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you're enjoying Real Talk Grimm Edition, don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening right now. And if you could take a moment to leave a review or share this episode with a friend, it would mean the world to me. Every little bit helps this podcast grow and reach more fairy tale fans like yourself. You can also connect with me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Real Talk, occasionally on X at Real Talk Pod, and we have email, therealtalk@gmail.com. Come talk with us. Follow me over there. I'll share other things Grimm related and a lot of movie related trivia and discussions and just anything you want to talk about. Now, let's talk about our next episode. We're going to dive into The Little Peasant, a tale full of unexpected twists, clever schemes, and a peasant who proves that intelligence, not status, wins the day. It's one of those stories that will have you questioning who the real fool is, and I can't wait to unpack it with you. Until next time, I'm Josh, and this has been Real Talk Grimm Edition, where the timeless meets the twisted, and every tale has a lesson to uncover.